Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you're tuning in. We are Slava and Jonathan, bringing you the Side Quest podcast, where we talk about character development, stories, and all things that are world building. And we occasionally take side quests, because, frankly, that's how conversations work. Just as a reminder, this whole show is spoiler heavy. So sit back, tune in, and join us on this episode of Side Quest.
He's like, it's growing on me. It's definitely growing on me. But he's not sold the way that I'm sold. He's not unsold like I'm
He's
unsold.
unsold?
I'm still unsold.
That was my joke. You just took my joke.
I'm sorry.
All right. Good evening, gentlemen. Here we are.
Hello.
We got Spencer back in. You know what happened? Actually, I didn't tell you this, Spencer. So Matt came in to record last week sometime, and we were like 10 minutes in, and he's like, this is my podcast now. Thanks for starting it up, Jonathan. See you later.
Yeah.
I was
Sounds
like, oh.
something you would say.
Yeah, that's what I said. So, I expect something a little more subtle, but, at least the same from you.
Well, how kind of Matt to let us use this podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, if you're listening. Appreciate you letting us take over your podcast.
Oh, Darth Matt. How's your guys' weekend? Any highlights?
No.
Yeah, mine was not
really.
much going on this weekend. It was actually...
Spencer, that's a lie. We both went to a wedding together.
Okay, I was thinking Saturday, Sunday, so... But you're right, Friday we were at a wedding.
Shout out to our friends that we don't care about because, oh yeah, they had a wedding, whatever.
But it was Friday, so it doesn't count.
Right, it's not technically the weekend.
Outside of the wedding, it was fairly uneventful.
Very nice.
Yep. There was some food trucks downtown on Sunday.
Did you go?
Yep, went with some people from my small group. So
oh, nice.
Had a good time. There was like 40 different food trucks, desserts, obviously any sort of almost food you can imagine. So it's pretty good.
I love it. Love a good dessert. I also just told Spencer before we jumped on here, Slava. So I bought him a juice. I bought him one of his favorite juices. And then last time I got him cookies as well. This time I also got him a cookie that I ate.
And where's this juice from? That's amazing.
It's just Bolt House Farms.
Yeah, nothing.
It's not
special.
carrot juice like I got him last time because he was like, didn't do it for me. Not his cup of tea. Not his cup of juice. I tried a juice this morning that I got from the grocery store, and it was fizzy. It was uncarbonated, though, according to the...
I don't think Truly are a juice.
Yeah, well, it's an eventful weekend, as we know. And they're not sponsoring us, so we don't use name brands.
Well, we had to start somewhere.
Speaking of starting somewhere, and then we can get into the book here. I was talking with a buddy of mine and Spencer's, Josh, and he was telling me about this guy that on his first episode ever, he was like, yeah, shout out to our sponsors, and he just picked his friend's business, even though his friend didn't agree to pay him anything. And then afterwards, he's like, hey, I talked about you on my podcast. You owe me $5.
Excellent.
And I was like, oh, maybe we should try and extort people too.
Well, I'm drinking a refreshing Wegmans iced tea.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
Slava's going to start taking people to small claims court. We talked about you on the podcast. You owe us $500. And the thing is, they won't show up because it's too small of money.
Yep.
I've got all the legal ideas. Don't at me in the comments. Anyway, Slava, give us a quick rundown, and by us I mean Spencer, because I was here for the first 2 episodes, about your thoughts on Unsouled and the world and Will Wight and his writing style and all the quick things to get Spencer up to speed.
I was not sold in the book at first, but I didn't hate it. The writing was fine. I've never read anime in book form. I don't think I've even read manga, apart from the manga that I like, which is like Death Note and a little bit more adult-themed, death and horror and stuff. I've watched Dragon Ball Z, not extensively, but enough to understand the pace of it. So reading the book, I was like, all right, this is not a fast-paced book. I'm okay with that. And it wasn't until, just like you said before we started recording, when Serial came in, I was like, oh, okay, this is different. Where I really got into it was when Lyndon was covering himself in dirt and tricking the the driver of the carriage from Heaven's Gate to get him up those stairs quickly. When that happened, now this is interesting. From that moment, I breezed through the book. I really enjoyed it. And as far as the world goes, well, sort of supposed to be Asia or Asian or Japanese, somewhere it kind of has elements of that. I like Will Wight's style. I think he's a good writer, but it took me a while to get into the story itself. And Lyndon annoyed the crap out of me. This one was annoyed with Lyndon. But that's kind of, a given, right? Because from what I'm told, even Lyndon's annoyed with Lyndon when you get to the book like 7 or something.
That's true. I wasn't going to tell Spencer that because it's a fun joke to stumble upon, but yes, there is a point when Lyndon comes across him, not like himself, but like someone who's overly polite like himself, and it like literally has 2 or 3 sentences where it's like, and Lyndon was utterly embarrassed about everything that he's ever said or something like that. And it's just like, yeah, that's how it's been for those of us who are like, you don't need to be that polite.
Yeah.
Right.
So there is character growth coming.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it for my recap. I am now interested in reading book 2 and 3. I think that's all we're doing for a while for this podcast. We might pick up 5 through 12 as time progresses.
And we'll skip 4 because Slava doesn't know how to count. So we're just going to skip it completely.
Just gonna. That was kind of minor.
It's okay because I don't love book 4. It's not bad. Yeah. It just like doesn't have as many kapows as the other books do. I'm okay with it. We should still read it, but I wouldn't be sad if we skipped it.
Well, I'm looking forward to book 2 because when Yirin was introduced, I liked her as a character. I like a good revenge story. So I'm already sold on that. I want to see who else she wants to get revenge on. So
she's got a list. Spencer, I know we were talking about this a little bit before the podcast, but can you give us a quick rundown of what your thoughts were when you first read it? Because this is a new series to you, and you started reading it because of me, and you were kind of like, meh, I mean, it's okay. And then you like ended the book and you were like, okay, now I have other questions.
Yeah, so, Jonathan, you recommended this to me, and you couldn't stop talking about it. And like over the past year or so, I think you've recommended it to me like 3 times. So I finally relented and started listening to book 1.
Perfect. I love
Yes.
The 4 greatest words in the English language. You wore me down.
You wore me down.
Well, this seems like par for the course. Because you were cajoled into joining the podcast, and you were cajoled into reading this book about the Unsouled.
Yeah, so here, who knows what else Jonathan's going to cajole me into.
Probably. I mean, I wouldn't put it past
So
me.
far, it's been all good things, so I guess I can't complain. But yeah, so I wasn't sold on the book originally.
I'll groan for the audience.
Stealing someone else's joke there. Yeah, I got about halfway through the book. I mean, it was interesting, but I feel like it wasn't anything exciting or that I hadn't like read before. Then all of a sudden, about halfway through, Serial showed up, and I was like, okay, this is definitely adding a new element in that I was not expecting or didn't see coming. So I definitely wanted to know more about her and where she comes from and who she is and like who she's fighting and what her purpose is. After that, I was pretty hooked. It was cool to see Lyndon. He's kind of always an underdog.
Always.
And
without fail.
Without fail, yes.
Or actually, sorry, with fail. He's the underdog and he fails.
He does
regularly
fail. But those failures, instead of getting defeated by them, he learns from them and he pushes through. Like he gets motivated by his failures to push through to the next stage or whatever that might be. He's always looking for an edge. He's always looking for something that will move him to whatever goal he has next. So that's cool to see. Yeah, the point where I was hooked was, and then at the end, of course, meeting Yirin, and of course he was told about Yirin by Serial, even though he didn't really know who she was at the moment. But it was just cool to see, and then beginning. Essentially, their journey is just beginning after the end of book 1. So definitely was hooked after book 1.
Do you so far now? You have read books 1, 2, and 3. Are there any characters that you feel drawn to, similar to the conversation we had about the Way of Kings, where you're like, oh, I really feel drawn to this character, And then do any of them annoy you? I know that we've kind of already discussed Lyndon, so if that's the case, then so be it. But just curious about that. And then Slava, you as well. I already know your answer, but I want you to share because Spencer missed the first 2 episodes because we haven't released them yet.
Yeah, I guess I can go. I don't know if there's a character that I feel really drawn to overall. I mean, obviously Lyndon, he's the main character, but I don't really feel like I resonate with him on too many things. Mm-hmm. I do like his drive, his passion for overcoming his limits. It's really cool to see. This might just be because he's the main character, but I do like Lyndon overall. I think he's probably so far my favorite. I suppose he can get a little annoying with this one all the time, but
yeah. Even as much as I love the series, he's like, all right, come on, man.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember a whole lot from book 2
Soup
outside
Smith?
of.
I autocorrected in a text with Slava at one point. It was supposed to say Soulsmith, but it autocorrected to Soupsmith.
It was perfect because I called Wight Will Smith, so.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
The Soupsmith.
I do like, I think we meet her in book 2, Fisher Gesha.
Yep.
She's kind of a fun character, and I think she's with them in book 3. But yeah, she's interesting. I'm not really sure. I don't feel like I still don't really know a lot about her, or if she's even relevant to the story going forward. But I just like her kind of sort of sassy, like old lady kind of persona. Just the way she interacts with Lyndon and some of the other leaders of the other clans that we meet.
She comes back from time to time. She's not a main character, but she's a character that will come back into the story here and there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But yeah, I mean, overall, I don't. Yeah, there's not one character that I feel like I resonate with yet. Mm-hmm. I do I like the characters, but I don't feel like I resonate with them yet.
That's fair. How about you, Slava?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
You big fan of Lyndon's parents?
I like. No, okay. Well, are we starting with who we hate? Because who I hate, the characters that I don't like.
You should.
Is the Wight clan.
You should. Why do you dislike them, Slava?
Bags.
Let's just start there. They don't. They mean well, maybe. They don't mean well.
Yeah, this is not my Western bias against Eastern honor culture, because I've come from an Eastern culture too. It's way different than the Eastern culture that this seeks to describe or where Wight gets his influence from. But I don't hate or have any sort of bias against those kind of cultures. So the Wight clan just seems like it's amped up with a bunch of just horrible people, you know, running the. Yeah, so it's an honor culture society with a bunch of dirtbags running it. The thing they do is selfish, right?
So everything that they do, literally everybody,
everything that they do,
except for Kelsa. Yeah. Kelsa seems reasonable,
sister, right?
Yeah, it's a sister.
The sister, okay. I hate the Wight clan. The people suck. Lyndon's pretty cool despite being annoying. I think, he's the hero. So just like Kaladin, he's the hero. So it's easy to like him. You're supposed to, right? That's who kind of drives the story.
I hope so, yeah.
And that's not a cop-out, I don't think. I believe wholeheartedly it's not. Yaren I like a lot. I don't know if I'm drawn to her yet. You said, Jonathan, that she would be somebody I would, given my...
your literature tastes.
I would be drawn to her. Not yet, but I like her because I like a good revenge story, first of all. So right away when you meet Yaren and she's, has her lists, checking it twice and making sure that the Heaven's Gates feels her fury. I like that. Yeah. I really don't like Lyndon's parents. That's for sure.
No,
I was trying to think somebody else.
They're awful.
There was somebody else.
Mostly his dad.
There was somebody else. One of the elders. Not the White Fox. Not the little man boy. There was one elder or one.
The elder of his clan?
His cousin's dad.
His cousin's
dad.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that guy, I was seething as I was listening to the book. I didn't like him at all.
No, they're all horrible. I will tell you that your revenge story comes to a fruition, book 8 or something like that. So
okay.
You do get your revenge. It just takes a while to get back to Sacred Valley. The characters that I thoroughly enjoy, I do this thing with characters, and maybe it's just me, but if you guys have experiences in other books that you've had this happen, feel free to let me know, is I feel like each of the main characters, so Lyndon and Yaren and Ethan, who you'll meet in book 3, Orthos, which Spencer and I just talked about, who you meet in book 3. There's another guy named Zeal that I feel similar to also. But like each one of them has things about them and their personalities, and I'm like, ugh, yes. And it's not that I'm that person currently, it's that I've been that person. Like, Lyndon's a late bloomer, right? That's just a really easy label for him. Late bloomer, thought he was worthless, born with a deformity, and I've talked about this before, but it's like his need to achieve because he doesn't have anything else also resonates with kind of like present Jonathan, but like being born in a downcast era. Now, granted, my parents are not assholes, but so I had that
Did
going.
anyone hold sustenance from you?
You can't have any of our food. We just expect that you're not going to make it. So, woof. But no, being too overly polite to all the people, and it's like some people don't deserve you being polite to them anymore. They've not earned it. Like, they've been rude, whatever. And then I've had like a season where I felt like Yaren, where I was just like, everything that came out of my mouth was just sarcasm and snippiness. And I still have some of that, but it's been tempered. And now I more so feel like Orthos and Ethan. Slava hasn't met either of them, but Spencer texted me today. He's like, I get why you like Ethan. Ethan has like it's easier to ask for permission. Sorry, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. And he just does what he believes to need to be done. So, but he's also jovial. He's just absolutely jovial, even when other people are not being. So it's each of the characters. It's like each of the characters in different parts of their lives, to me, partly make up who I am as a person, which is probably why I love this book so much, this series, because it's like, oh man, there's so many characters. Even The Way of Kings and Stormlight Archives, it's like, man, I've been Kaladin, I've been depressed, I've been there. Shallan, it's like, well, who am I going to be? I don't know who I'm going to be. Like, as much as I find it annoying, I think it's because I had a season or a few seasons when you're like teenager and you're like, I don't know the answer to any question. And then I've been Yasna, like for theology, where it's like, no, I have all the answers. And it's like, you don't have any of the answers. Less about Yasna and more about me, because Yasna actually did have the answers.
Well,
Now, that's interesting, as you were talking, Jonathan, because I think I was the opposite. When I was a kid, we briefly touched upon this in other episodes. I wasn't born into the most loving and nurturing family environment. And my response, like there's fight or flight, mine was, the Yaren response. Whose head do I have to lop off? And as I stressed in the other episode, I'm not making myself to be a tough guy. But my response was sarcasm and pretty much an F-you attitude. A pox in all your houses, I don't care. And slowly, as I've grown up, I've learned to channel that more appropriately. And when I'm channeling that, it's not necessarily a Catan swinging, head lopping kind of thing. I'll be blunt, I'll be direct, and I'll tell you to go, screw yourself maybe, or say that more politely, but it won't be
It's not going to be more polite.
But it's not going to be so emphatic, right?
Yeah.
Or vitriolic. Sometimes how I got when I was a kid. And that was all a defense mechanism too, and me, processing
Of course.
trauma and other stuff. But what was I saying? Because I was dovetailing what you were saying. Oh yeah,
opposite.
identifying with the opposite of of what you identify with in part with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that fascinating, since I think I've always known this, because I was a voracious reader when I was a kid. Now I'm a voracious reader again because I have to be, just to read all the books that we are covering for the podcast. And I kind of forgot how You'll can identify. One day. One day. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. how you can identify with a character, right? Because you see yourself in them, or if an author does a good job and humanizes the character, right? The same thing we're talking about how Sanderson humanizes women when he writes.
Yeah.
Like, because he writes people well. So when he writes a female character, you're like, oh, wow, that's not a two-dimensional, femme fatale or just a, shrinking violet. So I think Will Wight does a decent job with his characters too. Mm-hmm. And that's why people can go like, oh, wow, I have felt that way. I felt marginalized. I felt on the outskirts of, the family, society, whatever. And this, as I mentioned, after we started recording, after we finished recording of the last episode, this is for Spencer. Like, when you watch Akira, like, I don't know if you've ever seen that anime.
I have not.
But there's a character in it called Tetsuo, and he's the one that gets infected, for lack of a better term, with Akira. He's the one who turns into the monster in the end. But he is so immature. He's a little asshole. But I can identify with him, even in his immaturity, of how he feels in this gang that he's part of, how he feels marginalized and belittled because he feels that, hey, I'm just around because I'm the runt and they're just, doing me a favor, right, by keeping me around. And I felt that way. And in the situations, that I felt that way, now I'm thinking about a few particular situations, I would say 95% of the time I was right. But again, that doesn't excuse the other 5% where I either lashed out or, just had a pity party for myself. That doesn't excuse that. But I can understand why Tetsuo is going through what he's going through, in Akira. Or Akira, if you want to, whatever. The American pronunciation.
You're so much better than us.
No. I'm not trying to be that guy, but I know that some asshole in the comments is going to be like, nah, nah. Either you didn't pronounce it right, or why are you appropriating?
In Japanese, we actually say,
yeah. Yeah. So there are going to be two assholes. One who say I didn't pronounce it right and didn't do justice to the Japanese people, and the other white asshole is going to be like, well, you're appropriating Japanese culture. There's going to be two white guys.
And this is why I disagreed with Slava earlier when he's like, I'd say it more polite. And I'm like, no, you wouldn't. You definitely wouldn't. Slava's known for his crass behavior. And you can even find him by the water cooler making coarse jokes sometimes.
Sometimes.
Short-lived, but sometimes.
But I've come a long way, Spencer.
That's true.
I've
at least for as long as
by
I've known
God's
you.
grace, thank God for that, because I was a son of a bitch. That's for sure.
Weren't we all in our own ways? Whether you're a victim or you're the prideful one, or we all need some growth here and there.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
I was just gonna say, Spencer, it looked like you wanted to say something earlier.
Oh, I don't know if I resonate with Lyndon on the whole, but the one part I think I can get behind is, his over politeness. I don't know if I was ever over polite, but I would always make myself like, oh, sorry for my presence bugging you. I always felt like that.
Sorry, I exist.
Growing up, and sorry that my existence is bothering you. I'll do better.
Apologies.
This one regrets being born.
Yeah, exactly. This one is sorry for trying to ask a question and then getting shot down. So anyway, but yeah, so I feel like for whatever reason I resonate with Lyndon in that regard. I don't really feel like I have like the drive or the motivation that Lyndon does to overcome his obstacles. I've always been one that just kind of floats through life, lets it happen to me. Whereas Lyndon, he's really making life the way he wants it to happen, and I mean as much as it is within his power to do. So, but I've definitely been like the over polite person, and then I interact with those kinds of people, and I'm like, oh, that's this one is annoyed with himself now for being over polite.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna beat a dead horse. The growth thing, and Spencer and I have known each other for like about a year and a half now, give or take.
Yeah, right about that.
Yeah, but the growth mentality that I have adopted in the last, the whole time since you've known me, but it's not always been that way. And Slava can attest to this. I used to be a person who just kind of like ebbed and flowed with the way things went. I think, and maybe Slava, you can speak to this a little more because it's an outside perspective, but like Slava also knows my brother. And I was just the brother who was basically the hippie of the group. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Slava, but I would just like let life happen to me,
fair.
and I would just kind of saunter
Very free
around.
spirit.
Yeah, saunter around chasing the wind, and people are like, "Where's Jonathan now?" Like, he flew with a one-way ticket to Arizona for the weekend. I don't know. So I definitely get the letting life happen to you, or just kind of like ebbing and flowing. But man, there's a different appetite, and it's later in the books referred to as hunger, madra, which you'll learn about. But this drive for growth, I don't think drive for growth is possible as humans without something on the horizon. And for Lyndon, it's, hey, you got a vision of fate, and your whole world is going to be destroyed. So, do something about it or die. Your choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, I don't think I ever let things happen to me. Maybe I did, I just don't remember or don't recognize it. And I say that because I've always felt I'm responding to something. When I was a kid, I was constantly responding to some sort of insanity that was happening in my family. Then high school took me away from that insanity, at least, partly. And high school was fine for me. I didn't have none of the stereotypical high school experiences. It was a big high school. I had like a core group of friends, and that was it. We just hung out, did high school kid stuff, went to class. But because of the other stuff that was happening, I was still in survival mode. So I never did anything that a normal, well-adjusted, well-guided kid would do in high school, like take his classes seriously or anything else that would get you ahead in life. And then come graduation, well, now I got to find like regular work because I've always worked since I was 14. And after graduation, I got a job at a couple of pizza shops, and eventually I ran one of them. And then I was a head driver at another one. And then I was like, all right, well, I can't continue this way, and I need to take myself out even further from this insanity. And then it was survival mode for that. Leaving my mom's house and moving to moving in with another family member. All that culminated in a little bit of a reprieve, and then maybe 5 more or 4 things, kind of life changes happened. It wasn't until, I don't know, early 30s when things kind of calmed down. And then there was, in 2014, when I was 34, it ramped up again for like a year and a half. It was just complete insanity in my life. And now I'm 42. I'm well established in my career. And in between all that insanity, I was actually responding to life and surviving and working and making strides and making steps. And like we talked about seminary, I was in this 8 years of seminary. I had plans for my life. I kind of knew what I wanted to do. But when you pull back and you look at my life, if I look at my life at about 30,000 foot view, it seems nothing but nuclear explosions to which I was reacting to. And some of them weren't anything bad. Like, it wasn't like the end of the world. Some of it was. Some of it was pretty evil. Other things were just normal life stuff. The culmination of all that seems just like a nonstop response to things. So, I don't know what that means, but I think it stinted me in a little bit in a way, too. Because it wasn't until I was 27 when I took my career, my life, my faith seriously. Well, 25 when that journey began, kind of blossomed, I guess, into what would be who I am today. Or not blossom, but when a seed begins to grow.
I mean, blossom works.
Germinate?
Germinated?
Yeah. Germinate. Yeah, begin to germinate like around 27. And then, I was married around that time. I started going to seminary, and things kind of evolved. But nonstop response things.
But that's just like Lyndon. Like, his whole life is survival. Like, when he leaves home, there's no safety nets. That's it. If he dies his family already thinks he's dead. So whatever. Like, no one cares about him. No one.
Yeah.
So, like, when you're trapped in a survival mode, and psychologists write about this all the time, until you can find a place where you're not constantly just trying to survive, you're trapped in a repeating cycle, and it's all you know, and you have to relearn to calm down your, I think it's limbic system, so that it's like, hey, you don't have to survive right now. You can just, like, be. But it seems super abnormal to you because all you've known is survival. So,
yeah.
Spencer, did you have any thoughts on that? Or if not, I got another question for us.
I had a thought earlier, and now it's gone. Yeah.
Use
sorry.
a ruler
If it
technique.
comes back, just interrupt us.
Use a ruler technique
Yeah.
and just pull it out. Striker technique. Sorry. I'm the funniest
Inside
person
joke?
I know.
Yeah.
No, it's the book.
Not gonna
you know?
lie, Jonathan. I'm
That's
not sure
inside
you
joke
were
between
getting that
Jonathan
there.
and Jonathan.
Yeah,
Oh,
that there.
Oh man, that's my whole life, guys. That's why I resonate with.
Oh,
Nathan.
that's what it was.
Anyway.
Late bloomer. That's what it was. Lyndon is kind of a late bloomer. I think someone said that earlier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was Jonathan.
Yeah,
That was the
I
late
feel like
bloomer
that.
himself.
Yeah, I feel like that myself. I'm 30 and I still feel like
Yeah.
there are things that I haven't experienced where normal, I don't know if normal people's the right word, but like most people will experience like in high school or early 20s. So
Yeah.
and that's just because of the culture that I grew up in was very strict religious
Right.
culture. So I feel like
Yeah,
my
that'll do it.
my 20s was just a lot of me growing up. I feel like maybe some of that stuff I feel like I should have grown up when I was in high school, but just life experience and just
Yeah.
learning how the world works and all of that was just my 20s, figuring out everything out, and I'm definitely a late bloomer. So I feel like Lyndon struggling to feel normal maybe when everyone else, like when he's behind everybody else. That I feel like I maybe resonated with that too. So that's my thought, Jonathan.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I think that was the point of my little excursion. I'm definitely a late bloomer. Like I said, it was 25 when I really started to take stock of my life and go like, well, this needs to change. I can't live like this.
Yeah.
Some of it was a moral thing. Some of it was just dumb, lazy kid who hasn't grown up yet for whatever reason, whether it's my own doing or something that, a situation that was foisted upon me where I had no choice but to kind of be shackled to this sort of road. And then at some point you have to unshackle it because you're a grown ass adult. And so that happened to me. That happened to me when I was 25.
If you can get thrown in prison for life for doing something wrong, maybe it's time to grow up and make sure you learn all the laws that you need to not commit to breaking to make sure that doesn't happen to you, like tax evasion.
How do you get in that?
Oh, that the world doesn't prepare you to be a human. I want to take a hard left here and talk about Will Wight and his authorship and talk about the writing style here. So to me, and I haven't actually looked this up, but based on the reading of it, it feels written like a movie, and I really like that, which is why to me it almost kind of feels like Sanderson's writing, where you can jump around perspectives, but you're still getting the perspective. It's like third person limited with first person snippets is how it feels to me. What do you guys think?
I haven't thought about it until you mentioned it. I don't know. Spence, why don't you help me out? You answer and I'll think about mine.
I'm going to phone a friend. And Spence is also just going
I don't.
Yeah, phoning a friend here.
You're gonna falter through my explanation here. Yeah, I think that makes a little bit of sense, Jonathan. Where whenever you see someone else's point of view, Lyndon is always still around. Like you're still experiencing his story, but maybe through the eyes of somebody else. So I don't know what that perspective is called. I mean, you do in book 2, you get a character named Jai Long. You do get his point of view when Lyndon is not in the story. So you do have a second story arc maybe going on, because those characters are, I don't know if this is spoiling anything, but fated to meet. So you kind of are getting Jai Long's arc as well as Lyndon's, just not as much of Jai Long. But that's book 2. Book 1 is pretty much all Lyndon, I think.
Yeah, I think I was talking about just his writing in general, and because you've read 3 books so far, well, 2.5, Spencer, I was kind of, I guess this is not a great question now that you've pointed out. It's like, cause I just, this is on me. I ransacked his 11 books in 3 weeks, so I guess I'm not asking a question. I'm just making a comment, I guess.
Like every other day, he was texting me, "Oh, I'm on book 4, book 5, book 6, and I'm still on book 3, chapter 3." So,
of course, yeah. Well, I'll still do my due diligence. I have a hard time disagreeing with you, Jonathan. With everything you just said, third person limited and like a movie. I don't see any problem with that statement. I think so. Yes, but I'm not sure if I was to agree with you. I'm not sure what words I would use to be like, yes, Jonathan, and here's why I agree.
Yeah,
right? I'm like, but that makes sense.
I'm thinking about it after the fact that the question isn't good for book 1 because book 1 is literally just all about Lyndon, and you don't really get other people's perspectives, and so that's on me for asking a stupid question because I love the series enough to binge 11 books in 3 weeks. So that's a me problem. So I went on my own side quest that I wanted to invite you guys along for. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us along. Glad I could put a little bit of input there, even though it wasn't really what you were looking for. I was.
Oh my god!
I was telling Jonathan earlier, Slava, that I feel like it's written almost like a video game, but put into book form, because your character starts off at level 0 essentially, and then he's like trying to find ways to level up. And I think that'll maybe make more sense the further into books 2 and 3 you get. But you just have this character that's starting off at level 0, and he's trying to figure out how to level up. And there's bosses along the way that he has to defeat, and that's just kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense too, because you can imagine that there's like cutscenes, right? So you get an introduction with him. Then he has to go fight a remnant. He fights with his cousin. All that could be action or fight scenes in the video game. And then another cut scene of him, recovering. Because I've seen video games like that where they really are a slow burn, if you will. So a video game movie, I can agree with that.
The point that I was trying to make to myself a minute ago, and I'll just finish it to myself and the audience if you've read the books. was that the writing seems seamless, even though it jumps around perspective.
Like a movie.
5. All right.
Thanks for letting us sit in on that conversation between you and yourself, Jonathan.
Yeah. So this was a third person limited. We watched Jonathan's side quest.
Experience.
This one is grateful for allowing us to sit in. Yeah, gratitude. Thank you.
Oh, sweet God. Yeah.
Someone help me. Anybody?
So, well, okay. I'll say something. Maybe you guys can dovetail my point. One of the things I found fascinating, a part I enjoyed when I was listening to it, I was like, this is really cool, is when Urine and Lyndon are fighting Heaven's Gates, or whatever the hell they're called. They're fighting the disciples, and then the elder man baby is fighting Lyndon, and just how Lyndon, even as an Unsouled, has this rush of, call it energy, call it courage. First of all, he beats to death that guy who wanted to hurt him, so that was kind of fun. And then he fights Elder Man Baby, and it's just, I don't know, it's fast-paced, right? It's written like a movie, just to use your point. And I was really into that whole scene. What did you guys think of that scene?
Yeah, it was good. It was one of those scenes where, Lyndon, it feels like the odds are stacked against him, and yet he still finds a way to overcome. Yeah, elder man baby. Yeah, that guy definitely.
I can't remember his name.
No, I think
either.
it's fine. I think that's a great way to describe him because
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, guy definitely had some issues in his own life.
There's this throwaway line. I was like, okay. I mean, I enjoyed it, so I wasn't, my okay wasn't in the line. He did whatever he did to stay like an 8-year-old, and then he realized there's girls out there, and he's like, maybe I shouldn't have done this. I was like, okay, buddy. But he goes like, no, I want my manga or my power. Not manga, oh goodness. My Madra. I want my Madra, so forget the girls. All right, yeah, you're a weirdo. Not that I'm advocating for it to give away power just because you want to, I don't know, hold a girl's hand, but just weird flex,
I have so many
Maybe.
comments and none of them.
Maybe be patient.
Yeah. We'll go with that.
Just be a 20-year-old forever or something.
Man.
Anyway, Jonathan, you're inappropriate comments. Just say them now, and we'll boot them out.
No. I loved how the Heaven's Glory School has like this. It's not an archive, but like a treasure vault of goods.
Yeah.
And Will had an answer for each one of them. And he just like went down. He rattled off a list of like magic items, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this one does this, and this one does this," and they all have names. And I was just like, "How long did you sit there and think about that stuff?" They're all good names too. They're like not blatantly obvious, but they're obvious enough.
Yeah.
I love a good magic item. I really do.
Yep.
Nope. All right. Good.
Agreed.
Nothing.
No, that's the show, folks.
Sorry, I don't know. Sorry.
So I'm just talking to myself here, I guess. Did you guys?
This one is sorry for not having more input on that.
Okay. So Spence, does the physical copy of the book have a bonus chapter or bloopers at the end?
I don't know. Let me consult
Yes.
real quick.
Yeah, the Kindle version has bloopers. Because I got the Kindle version too. Because it was cheaper than, the Audible credit.
Yeah.
It was like $3 Kindle book, $3 Audible narration because they do bundle stuff like that.
Yeah, so there is bloopers at the end. I didn't even know this was a thing.
What? Really?
So were we selling the bloopers?
That's like one of the.
Yeah.
Man,
I
you're
didn't
in for
even
a treat.
It wasn't.
You're in for such a treat.
It wasn't in the Audible version. Why
Yeah, it
wasn't
was.
that included in? It was.
Yeah.
It's
after
I might
the
have,
bonus chapter.
Oh, that's probably why I didn't hear it because I skipped the bonus chapter because I was just going to buy the next Audible credit.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just going to listen to
Yeah.
chapter 1 in the next book. So that's
Right.
probably why I didn't see it.
Right.
But
But no, there's bloopers at
well,
the end of I think each of the books. I can't remember one that doesn't have it, but the bloopers are funny because he'll go back to a scene that took place and he'll change the outcome as if these characters are actors. It's the funniest thing.
oh, interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, let me read one. The first one is here. Here, your faith is an absolute certainty, Serial said. If you tried 1,000,000 times to go to the 9-cloud court from where you are at this moment, you would die before you reached them 1,000,000 times. What if I was the hero of a fantasy novel? Lyndon asked. Well, yes, obviously, if you were the protagonist of some kind of story, the situation would be different. Serial stopped mid-sentence, and her eyes narrowed. Why do you ask? Lyndon coughed. No reason. It's kind of funny.
No, man, just glance over the bloopers at the end there, Spencer, real quick, and find one that you like and just read it to us because this is one of the things that Will Wight does for himself, I think, but then we all get to participate because there are characters that we meet later that have really serious moments, and then at the end it's bloopers. It's like that's another reason why this feels like a movie where it's like, what author has ever like written bloopers into their story because it ruins the story, ruins the seriousness, and he's like, no, we're here to have fun. We're here to have fun.
Yeah. All right, I think I found one. Hesitantly, Lyndon raised his head to face Elder Whisper. Pardon this one's ignorance, but does the path not end with gold? Elder Whisper barked a laugh. Gold? Are you serious? You think gold is the maximum? Well, yes. Everyone here. What an idiot. Duh. Hey, everybody. Look at me. Gold is the strongest you can get. That's you. That's what you sound like. Now get out of my tower, you moron. Elder Whisper spat in his face.
This one is kind of funny, too. Before he could finish the sentence, he was sucked away into an infinite void, like water running down a drain. The woman from the heavens did not look at him, but kept her eyes on Lyndon. As her blue fire wings vanished, she spoke. Stand, do not be afraid. Lyndon struggled to escape the terrifying stranger, but his body was still fully under his control, so he could only scream. The woman from the heavens looked taken aback. She made a soothing gesture with one hand. Peace, I mean you know. Lyndon kept screaming. I only want to. Don't hurt me. What is your... With a sigh, Serial erased his memory. That makes the 294th time that this has happened, her presence reported. I have compiled a list of possible causes. First possibility, your face. Serial muted her presence and left.
You guys, this is I'm so happy that you just found this. I didn't know that you hadn't.
Didn't know those existed.
This is in every book. You should look at your other books when you get home.
I will definitely do that.
Maybe don't look at the end of book 3 yet, but it's...
Well, I'll wait for that one.
Oh, man. You guys, it's so much fun. This is just one more element of why it feels like a movie to me, because he's got these characters and they're redoing the scenes and they're...
Yeah. It reminds me of, did you ever watch, Pixar used to do that on some of their movies, like Toy Story and whatever. There's a bunch of them. But it was like the characters would be acting out the scenes, and then at the end, you see the bloopers of them redoing this. So that's kind of what this reminds me of.
Yeah. All right. One more, because this one's good, too. It's my type of humor. And then we'll stop this insanity train. Whitehall's face twisted in disgust as he looked at Lyndon. Trash. He gestured as though to toss the stolen dagger to the floor, but then stopped himself. You know, I was going to overload your core with my module to destroy your spirit from the inside out, but I'm holding this knife. I think I'll just stab you. Lyndon, already cycling the heart of twin stars, froze. Are you sure you don't want to teach me a lesson about your superiority? It's tempting, but no. I think I'll just stab you. Elder Whitehall stabbed him. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the typical villain move, right? You just gotta, because they got a monologue every time before they actually kill you. So that's what always gives the hero the chance to make their move.
That was clever.
Man.
I like it.
I can't tell you how satisfying it is when Lyndon comes back to Sacred Valley and just like you remember the attitudes they have in book 1 here, and you're just like, all of you deserve whatever you get. And it's just beautiful. It's just a really great time for the reader.
Yeah, I think I can even see that from book 2 and 3. I don't want to give away too much, I guess, but like Sacred Valley is so backwards compared to the rest of the world. And it's like you see that more and more as the books go on, or at least as far as what I've seen and experienced. And you're like, wow, okay, Sacred Valley, they didn't really, they weren't even close to understanding everything that is out there in levels of, I don't know, I forget what they're called. Advancement, copper to iron to gold or whatever, or jade and then gold. But yeah, it was like Sacred Valley didn't know that anything beyond, was it jade exists or gold? They knew of gold, but no one in the Sacred Valley was gold.
Yep.
And so it was just like, it's very, very primitive, I think Serial mentions.
They're like a bunch of hillbillies.
Yeah, and then even some of the characters, I think maybe it's Ethan even says the same thing later in book 3, that Sacred Valley was very primitive culture compared to the rest of the world. So yeah, it just kind of makes sense. At least Lyndon's parents and a lot of people in his clan are idiots.
That's a good description. Backward, I think, like infantile in their thinking. Then it goes back to what I was trying to say, or did say in the beginning, where this is not me ranting against an honor culture society. It's just this particular type and how it is lived out It's backward. That is a very good, very appropriate term for it.
It is. Making another comment on Will Wight's writing is something that you mentioned about the world being bigger, Spencer, because you've read book 2 and half of book 3 now. Will Wight builds the world, to me, the way that Tolkien did, where he'd you're going along your main story, he'll mention 2 or 3 sentences about a mountain over there that's owned by the Wraith King of Angmar, and then you just go back to your story and you're like, but wait, I want to go back, turn around, I want to know more about that. And he just keeps going, and you're like, but it's these little snippets. It's like snippet world building where you're like, wow, this feels like a real world. That it's a different type of world building than Sanderson does, because Sanderson focuses on okay, the gravity of the planet is 1.6 times, and it's rotating at a speed of 3,000 miles per hour, Earth digits, and the Lethe call it, blah, 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 and it's got 3 planets in its solar system, which is okay, this is, a very different world-building style than Will Wight, who does snippet. I'm just coining a term right now, snippet world-building.
Mm-hmm. I like that term for it.
Because you don't feel like you need to pause and get an encyclopedia either. You're never pulled out of the story. You're just given these video game pop-ups of hey, didn't you hear that there were rats in the sewers? Do you want to go help the people with the rats in the sewers problem? Denied. Report complete.
Access denied.
That just goes to the talent of these authors. And it's a gift, and it's also something that you have to exercise like any muscle. And I think these guys do it well. Because we read Sanderson, we read Will Wight, we read Path of Destruction.
Yep.
Different genres, very different genres, especially fantasy and sci-fi. But 2 of them are kind of similar maybe in some ways because of the pace and how characters are built. But that's not a genre issue really.
Yeah.
But each author, there's 3 of them. For me and Jonathan, there's 3 of them. They are able to, whether it's a slow world building, snippet world building, you're able to be pulled in to the world quickly. And like we talked about, identify with a character, not identify the character, love a character, hate a character. They're able to elicit these responses, which even if you're hating a character, you're obviously interested in the story. That's a good thing that you hate the bad guy, right? Or that you hate the sniveler, or that you really enjoy the princess and you really are rooting for the prince. I'm just pulling stuff out of my rear for an example. I think that just shows that at least the 3 writers we've covered so far, it's a real gift to be able to pull a reader into a world, whether it's fast-paced or slow-paced.
It's tough because I think we've all read stories that were just I hate this book. This is the worst book.
Yeah.
But I started it, so now I have to finish it.
Yeah.
At least that's what I do. I hate leaving a book or a movie unfinished, even if I think it's terrible. I just want to know how it ends.
Yeah. For a movie, I will finish watching a crappy movie. I don't think I could a book.
It depends how long the book is.
Really crappy book.
It depends how long the book is.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what book that I read in my life that I absolutely hated.
I have one. It's The Wandering Inn. I've talked about it before. It's absolute shit. I couldn't finish it.
There's a book, The Name of the Wind, by Patrick Rothfuss. Popular fantasy book. People rant and rave about it. Well, it depends. Some people do, some people don't. I did not love it. I just thought it was kind of boring. But maybe I didn't understand the world building enough or something. I don't know. But
everyone say goodbye to Spencer. He'll never be on the show again.
Thanks, Spencer.
All right, see you guys. Thanks for having me on.
That was actually one of the first books that Slava and I read to try to kick this podcast off a year and a half ago.
Really?
Was Name of the Wind, yeah.
Too funny.
It is. It is funny. Did you see that Rothfuss actually is putting out another book right now? That's not Doors of Stone?
I did not.
He's putting out a novella about Bast, the innkeeper's apprentice.
Okay.
Not that you care, because you've already identified that you hate it.
Because it's a garbage book, apparently.
I didn't say it was garbage.
No, I'm kidding.
I just said I didn't. Everyone hyped it up so much to me, so I was super hyped going into it, and then I don't know if my expectations just got raised so high that they just fell short eventually, or the book did. But I don't know, for some reason, it didn't really do anything for me.
Well, it's because it also has a very different writing style. It's taking place in present day, where he's an innkeeper and he's washed up, and it's taking place in the past, where you're learning about his journey of becoming a multi-layered legend across the known world, which is like two different things happening at two different times, which is curious because you're getting Kvothe's story, and then you're also getting the truth, sort of. And you also know how the book ends. It's like when you go watch the Titanic, you know the boat's gonna sink, but you still watch it. Like at some point, Kvothe's story ends with him owning an inn, telling this story. Like you already have the ending. You know that Folly is hung above his back bar, and that the series is called The King Killer Chronicles. Well, I bet at some point he's going to kill a king.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, like something's going to happen, but it's the journey before destination to get there, right? It's actually interesting you bring up Name of the Wind, because one of the books that I want Slava to read, and I would encourage you to read too, because I think it gives context to the Name of the Wind magic system, is Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea series, because that is 80% of the influence of how magic works in Name of the Wind. So, but her writing style is completely different. Is slow, it's methodical, and it's, well, some people that have read it call it boring because it's so slow. But that's her writing style. So I think that it makes sense to me that if people hyped up Name of the Wind to you, it wouldn't strike the same impact, because it's more of a story, I guess I would say, rather than like a character-driven story, which is what I would call Unsouled, where it's like more focused around the plot, I think, in Name of the Wind.
Yeah. Trying to think. There's these books I didn't hate, but there are John Le Carre, if I'm pronouncing that right. John Le Carre, he writes spy novels. And I read The Russia House, and I find it just an amazing freaking book. It's your modern, paperback, kind of mass market paperback. But he was more popular, I think, in the 70s and 80s. Or the 80s, early 90s. And The Russia House is a really well-written book. And then I watched a movie called Tinker Tailor Spy, which is based on his Smythe series. And I was like, oh, wow. I liked his Russia House book. Let me see what I think about this. And I read the first one, and I returned it. Like, I was like, just didn't care. I got an Audible. I think I didn't even finish it. Halfway through, I was like, I don't care. Because it was another character who he wasn't a sniveler, but I just didn't like him. He wasn't appealing as a character. The protagonist wasn't appealing as a character. And, yeah. But I didn't hate it, right? It was just like, I'm bored to tears. So there was one book that I didn't finish at all.
Speaking of wishes, we're going to play a little game with Spencer to land this plane, because I enjoy a good non sequitur.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So, Spencer, I don't know if you listened to our episode on Monkey's Paw.
I have not.
That's all right. I know you're a busy man, but basically, you get a monkey's paw that was cursed by a fakir, and you get to make 3 wishes. So your first wish, you describe what you want, and then Slava will break your wish, and then you, based on that present reality, you will make a second wish, which I will break, and then you will live in that present reality, and then the third wish you will also wish, and Slava will break that one, and then we'll see where you end up. This is our new episode finisher, maybe
For guests.
for guests.
Cool.
So the only thing you can't wish for is unlimited wishes, but you can wish for powers. You can wish for anything that your heart desires.
Let's see. I unfortunately am not good at coming up with things on the spot. But you know what? Something that I've always thought would be really cool is I wish I had the power to fly.
The power to fly. Now I got to think of how to break it.
Yep. That's the fun in this game.
Yeah.
It's also a good, while Slava's thinking, I'll just prattle on. It's a really fun conversation opener. I was talking with, who was I talking to the other day about, it was this bonfire that we went to from some folks in our community invited me to a bonfire that I thought was going to be folks our age. Turned out it was not. They were the younger group. And I decided to not hang out by the blazing bonfire because it was a rager with a keg. And I was like, I'm too old for this. So I went inside and people were like, oh, yeah, people, weddings. And you just always have to answer like, how are you doing? You have the same conversation 3,700 times. And I was like, why? Just tell them you don't want to talk about it. That's what I do. And they're like, okay, guy we don't know. Right, jag off. I was like, ask him a different question. Look, you're an adult. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. You're an adult. And so this is a question where it's like, okay, great. Give the person a scenario and see how they think. Give them it's not really a puzzle. It's it's like a story question where it's open-ended. Anything could happen. Someone could come down this stair right here and just go, I'm going to stab you.
That escalated quickly. It was like you had any number of scenarios to talk about, but you could talk about someone stabbing you. Okay.
I wish I could text someone to just come down the stairs with a knife real quick, and then I black the camera out, and you guys are like, I don't know if he's actually dead or if he's just playing it.
Yeah. I'd be like, well, I guess I'm next.
That's right. You're in the basement.
Well, Spence, land the plane. Yeah, Spence, go upstairs and hit stop on the recording. All right, so ability to fly. Sorry, I was distracted for a little bit. I had to check a text from my wife. Ability to fly. Okay, you have the ability to fly, but you have very small, permanent bat wings that are hard to hide, even under clothes, and they make it really difficult for you to stop flying. You accelerate really quick, but crash landings are a thing.
I'd still
you don't get killed or break any bones, but black and blue.
Injuries abound. Great. That's your first wish. All right, Spencer, next wish.
Next wish.
Now that you can fly, what else do you wish?
Now that I can fly.
Sort of. What else do you wish for?
While being maimed while I fly. I don't know. I feel like I keep coming up with just like generic money or having things that feels so superficial.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's fine.
Part of the fun, too. It could be superficial. So the last guy wished for all the money in the world, and
we gave it to him.
Turned his world upside down. We gave it to him.
We gave it to him.
Right. Okay, let's see. I wish... how do I say this? I wish that I had the ability to live in the Cosmere universe.
Oh, boy.
Or maybe the ability to insert myself into different universes. Maybe that would be a better...
So you want a second power, basically. Okay, you get it. Wish granted. But every time that you transport yourself into another universe and world or multiverse, you can never be the same person twice. You're not yourself. You're someone else who now has bat wings and can fly. And
Great,
so you are wreaking havoc through the space-time continuum and multiverses. There's just this weird through line in the series of Fate where there's these people who suddenly are normal and then have bat wings and they start flapping around. And maybe you're the reason that Dracula exists.
I'm the reason for all of the vampire stories.
Okay, so you can world hop. You're a world hopper.
Ooh, there you go. That's a nice tie-in.
Yeah, I like that. I like that title.
World singer. What do you do
world
with
hop.
all your knowledge of going to all these different worlds and wreaking absolute chaos?
What do I do with
Well,
all
in
my
some worlds, he'll probably be worshipped as a demigod. In other worlds, hunted down like a like a bad boy.
I was just gonna say, yeah, some of them definitely being hunted.
Better start reading up on your mythology.
Right. Don't want to go to medieval England. I'll probably get hunted down.
He's a witch. All right, third wish.
Third wish. All right. Man, tough question. I feel like it shouldn't be.
Tell us your darkest desires, Spencer.
Darkest desires.
Come to the dark side. We used to have cookies.
We used to. All right.
I told you earlier,
okay.
I ate it.
All right. I guess let's just stay on the same train of having like supernatural abilities. I would want the ability to mind read, but not have people's thoughts just constantly streaming into mine, but like the ability to just at like whenever I want, like pick out certain, like what is this person thinking at this moment?
You're an interdimensional Dracula. That's what you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So you saved yourself from having just a radio feed into your brain, because I was going to break it. Like
Yes,
you constantly hear.
Yeah.
Spencer's like, I've seen this book before.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mel Gibson did a movie about this in the 90s. No, he really did. Okay, so the limit is that you get to control, or not the limit, but part of the wish is you get to control when you read minds.
Yep.
Let me know if you need help. I got.
Why don't you take it? Because last time I took 2 wishes. This time you can take 2 wishes.
Okay. All right. So you have the ability to tap into whomever's mind you want to. However, there's feedback, and you also have to hear whatever they're hearing at the same time, not just their thoughts.
Interesting.
But if they're in the same room, that's a given. If you decide from 10 miles away to tap my brain, you will hear, I guess, what's going on inside my house.
No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you're, Slava, you're at a rock concert, and he's,
Ooh.
You also have to be line of sight. So you can't just think about, this isn't an omniscience power. You have to, there's an aura, a madra in the vitality of the earth that you, or whatever planet you're on, to understand what is being said. And the thing is, you don't get to pick what parts of their inner monologue you get, because sometimes all you're getting is, I'm hungry. You don't get to pick. You don't get to pick what part of the brain you're listening to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you do have the after effect of like hearing whatever's through their ears, because your power just didn't develop fully. So
Another one could be is once you tap open somebody's brain, it doesn't stop. So you get to choose the moment when you tap into it, but then it's a constant loop.
I thought about that, but it would be a lot of energy to travel through space-time. Maybe that's what drives him to switch worlds.
That's why I keep world hopping. Too many thoughts.
But it resets if you try and go back to the world you were just at. You just end up, similar to what we said before, you end up being a different person with bat wings. Then the person that whose body you basically possessed ends up being schizophrenic for the rest of their life.
It's like not Dark City. Oh, what's that movie?
Dark City was good.
13th Floor.
Oh, 13th Floor.
Yeah. That was a good movie.
Oh, man. We're about to read some horror
seen that
stuff.
one.
Shout out to Universal Studios. Just kidding.
Our sponsor.
Oh, what's this litigation letter we're getting?
Right.
Oh, boy.
California, huh? Interesting.
Oh, man. All right. One last question for Spencer, and then we're gonna land this plane. We're gonna call it. Spencer, you read Lies of Locke Lamora. I want you to sell us on this book. Sell it to us.
That's a hard ask, Jonathan, because I told you multiple times It was kind of a tough one for me to get through.
I know.
Up until maybe 3/4 into the book. Yeah, it's an interesting world. I feel like I don't know a ton about the world even after reading book 1. I don't know if you can call it a heist story. Okay, so the main character is a thief, and he's an orphan. As a kid, he does some things that get him in some pretty big trouble. He gets bailed out, and this guy takes him in and teaches him Father Chains teaches. He takes in orphans and makes them a part of this group that's called the Gentlemen Bastards, and teaches them how to be thieves, basically, like professional thieves. And so you're jumping back and forth between like present time and then Locke's past as a child, and him learning the skills that he is using in the current timeline to pull off these heists and these thieving jobs. He ends up meeting the Grey King, who is, how do I say it? Maybe like another version of himself in some ways. I don't want to say anything without spoiling. Or are we doing spoilers? Is that a thing?
No, we can do spoilers for the cell. The only thing we can't spoil is the Cosmere, because Slava responds or reacts. That's for the Cosmere, but everything else it's fair game.
Okay. Is this something that I'm trying to sell Slava on, Jonathan?
I'm gonna make him read it anyway. But
Okay.
I'm trying to wet his
Well,
appetite.
we're covering it for the podcast.
I'm trying to
okay.
Wet his appetite.
Okay, well then I guess I won't give away too much. So Locke is running this heist, and all of a sudden he runs into this, like a roadblock, and he's got to, and his heist, or the Gentlemen Bastards, I don't know if does he run the Gentlemen Bastards now, Jonathan? I honestly can't remember.
Yeah, at some point he takes over for Father Chains.
Okay.
I also just love the character Father Chains. Like, It's fun. So much fun.
But basically, he runs into a threat that could threaten his Gentleman Bastard thievery organization or operation. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So, and he's got to figure out how to stop that.
Powerful people don't like being taken advantage of.
It's a fair statement.
Every time. Love it. Everyone should read.
So yeah, that was a big run around there, but
no, it's good.
That's where I wanted to get.
The Lies of Locke Lamora. That one's gonna be fun. It's most of the books that I'm picking have a slow front end, but once you get to meet the characters, they're all very unique. I feel like they all have unique characters and unique worlds, which is what I think draws me to them.
Yeah, and all the books I'm picking are just weird acid trips and horror.
It's true. It's true.
If you want to go on a slight acid trip, you should read The City and the City by China Mayville. He's an author of what he claims, calls weird fiction, and now it's become like a thing. But from what I read, which is very little about him, it seems he's coined the phrase, or maybe he accepted it as that's what he's writing. But a lot of it is you're not sure what's going on. Or if it's a straightforward story in the sense you're like, okay, this is character A, this is character B, this is what they're doing. It's set in a world which is kind of topsy-turvy, for lack of a better term. It's upended, it's unusual, and it's hard to wrap your brain around based on what the characters tell you about the world. So, and that's something that even Jonathan said. He was like, I started The City in the City. I am confused. So I gave him three points because we're going to be discussing it, and this is not just, an exercise in confusing ourselves. So I wanted him to know 3 points about the book that will help him just get the same way. Remember, talked about The Way of Kings, why I wanted to know little things that helped me get the immediate context. I gave him those 3 things to help him understand the characters better.
Yep.
Anyway, that's me selling The City in the City.
We're reading that right now, and I'm still fully confused. But I'm only, 4 chapters in or something like that. So I'm not surprised.
Oh yeah, five is when you get a little bit unconfused. But then weird stuff happens in 7 and 8 and into 10.
Well, spoil it for me, jeez. You sound like me when I text Spencer. Oh man, Spencer, book 4 blank happens, and then blank blank blank, and then oh man, and then you're never going to see this coming, but blank, blank. I literally just sent him like an ad lib.
Yep.
Awesome.
It's good. Anyway, Spence, it was great having you on. Really love having you on. Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, thanks again for bringing me on.
Yeah, it could be another Cradle book. It could be another book. Maybe we'll have you on for your favorite book, The Name of the Wind.
I'll make sure to call in sick that day.
But I'll bring you a real cookie that time.
Yeah, not one that you were going to give me, but then just ate because you couldn't help yourself.
Okay, that's the episode. That's the episode. Nope, that's the episode.
Goodbye, good people.
Hey, see you later, everyone.
Oh, you can finish your story, Spence.
I don't know. I just love it. You're like, hey, I got you this cookie. Oh, thanks. But then I ate it because it was too good and I couldn't stop. Oh, thanks, I guess. I don't know. So what do you say to that?
It's the thought that counts.
All right.
It was delicious. I got you a juice. The cookie was supposed to be a surprise.
Supposed to be.
You're welcome. It was a surprise to you and to me. Oh. Okay.
At this point, the listeners are confused why there's the outro music playing and we're still talking.
Goodbye, good people.